Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time we'll be exploring this book, The True Art of Healing by Israel Regardie.
Oh, yeah.
And this isn't your average, self-help book, right?
No, not at all.
It's more like a guide to kind of unlock your hidden potential.
Right.
And we'll be uncovering some pretty interesting concepts.
Yeah.
Think psycho-spiritual organs, healing with color and sound, even tapping into the power of these ancient names.
Yeah, some really cool stuff.
You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so one of the things that makes Regardie's work so interesting is that he kind of blends this ancient wisdom with modern psychology.
Absolutely. And he was a big believer in this idea of a powerful force within each of us, a force that can heal and, transform our lives.
Right.
But it's often blocked by our own limitation.
It's like we're our own worst enemies sometimes, right?
Anytime.
So what kind of limitations are we talking about?
Well, he referred to them as mental and moral limitations.
Yeah.
It's not just about negative thinking, but it's about confronting those deep-seated beliefs and patterns that prevent us from accessing this inner power that we have.
Yeah.
He actually uses the term moral cowardice.
Wow.
Which I think really underscores the seriousness of the work.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's advocating for a lot more than just positive affirmations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So how do we even begin to overcome these limitations and tap into that force?
Well, he suggests something that's surprisingly simple, and that is rhythmic breathing.
Okay.
He believed that rhythm is this fundamental principle in nature. And by consciously regulating our breath, we can attune ourselves to that rhythm.
Yeah.
And we can actually connect with that deeper source of energy and vitality.
So it's not just about getting enough oxygen, it's about tapping into this deeper energy flow.
Yeah, exactly. And he describes this feeling that accompanies rhythmic breathing as the body becoming like an inexhaustible storage battery of power.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That is a powerful image.
Yeah.
So we're breathing rhythmically, we're feeling energized. Where does that energy go?
Right.
How do we actually direct it for healing and transformation?
Right. So this is where the concept of psychospiritual centers comes in.
Okay.
These are not physical organs in the body, but rather centers of energy within what is often referred to as the subtle body. Think of it as an invisible network of energy channels that are flowing through us.
Okay.
Regardie identified 5 key centers: the spirit, air, fire, water, and earth.
Okay.
And each of these is associated with specific qualities and functions.
So when we talk about the subtle body, is that our aura?
You could think of it like the aura is kind of like an expression of the subtle body.
Okay.
An ovoid sphere of energy that extends beyond our physical form.
Okay.
And these psychospiritual centers are like hubs within that energy field.
Okay, so how do we work with these centers? How do we awaken them?
So he suggests using a combination of thought, color, and sound. Each center responds to a specific color and sound vibration.
Interesting.
It's almost like using a specific frequency to activate a particular energy center.
So we're talking about using colors and sounds for healing.
Yeah. And transformation, too.
How does that work?
It's kind of like, we associate certain emotions with certain areas of the body, right? We talk about a heavy heart or butterflies in our stomach. Well, these psychospiritual centers are similar.
Okay.
But they operate on a deeper, more energetic level.
I see.
And color and sound act as tools to influence and harmonize those energies.
Okay, could you give me an example?
Yeah, sure. So the spirit center, which is located above the head,
Okay.
is associated with the color white and the sound iheya, which means I am.
I am.
That sounds pretty powerful.
It represents our connection to our divine spark, our true essence.
Okay.
By visualizing that white color above our head and mentally vibrating the sound iheya,
we can activate that center and bring a sense of clarity, purpose, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
So we're breathing rhythmically, we're visualizing colors, and vibrating these ancient names. What happens next? Where does the healing come in?
So once we've activated these centers, we learn to circulate that energy throughout the body.
Okay.
Much like we circulate blood through our veins.
Right.
Regardie describes several techniques for doing this. Visualizing energy flowing down one side of the body, up the other, front to back, and even what's called a fountain circulation.
Okay.
All while maintaining that rhythmic breath.
So we're creating this dynamic flow of energy throughout our whole being.
Exactly.
Wow.
And by directing this energy to specific areas, we can stimulate the body's natural healing abilities.
Yeah.
Whether it's for a physical ailment, an emotional blockage, or even to address what Regardie calls moral limitations.
So we're not just suppressing the symptoms, we're like working with the energy to promote deep healing and transformation, like from the inside out.
Yes, exactly.
But if this force is so powerful, it seems like it could be used for more than just healing. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you mentioned something about finding rare books earlier.
Yeah. So he believed this technique could be applied to virtually any challenge that we face. He provides an example of using it to find rare books by aligning oneself with the energy of Mercury, which is associated with intellect and communication.
So aligning with specific energies can help us achieve specific goals.
That's the idea.
That's incredible. Tell me more.
Well, in part 2, we're going to explore how to apply these techniques to a variety of different challenges.
Okay.
From overcoming like financial limitations to transforming negative personality traits. It's all about understanding those subtle forces that are at play and learning to work with them consciously.
I can't wait. I'm ready for part 2.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into how we can actually apply some of these techniques from the true art of healing, to like real life challenges.
Yep.
Regardie believed that, this system wasn't just for physical healing, but it could be used to address a wide range of issues.
So it's more about like personal transformation on all levels.
Exactly, yeah. So for instance, let's say you're facing some financial limitations.
Okay.
Regardie suggests working with the energy of Jupiter.
Okay.
Which is associated with abundance and growth.
Right, so Jupiter is purple, right?
That's right.
And it has a divine name that goes along with it.
It does.
So I would like tap into that Jupiterian energy, visualize myself surrounded by that color and like vibrate that sound.
Exactly. And you would visualize yourself attracting opportunities, resources, financial abundance.
Okay.
The key is to hold that vision with clarity and emotional intensity.
It's like we're creating a powerful energetic magnet.
Yeah.
To like draw in what we desire, but it's not just about visualization, right? There's still effort involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that this isn't about magical thinking. It's about aligning ourselves with the forces that can help us achieve our goals.
Yeah.
But we still have to take action. We still have to do the work.
So it's more about like empowering ourselves to take effective action.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about recognizing that we have a role to play in shaping our reality. Now, let's say you're struggling with a negative personality trait.
Okay.
Like maybe you're overly critical.
I think we could all relate to that at times.
Yeah, for sure.
How could we use these techniques to like become more understanding and accepting?
Well, in that case, we might look to Venus. Which represents love, compassion, and harmony.
Okay.
So you'd visualize yourself bathed in emerald green.
Okay.
That's the color of Venus. And you would vibrate the divine name of Venus.
Okay.
And, really focus on cultivating those feelings of kindness and understanding towards yourself and others.
So I would also like visualize specific situations where I could practice being less critical.
Absolutely, yeah. You're essentially shifting your internal state, which will then naturally influence how you interact with the world.
So we're not just trying to suppress those negative thoughts. We're trying to like replace them with positive qualities.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And Regardie also talks about using these techniques for healing relationships.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So like if I'm having a conflict with someone, I could use this to try and help improve the situation.
Yeah, but remember, it's about working on ourselves.
Right.
Not trying to manipulate or control the other person.
Right. I wouldn't want to try and like force someone to change.
Exactly. It's about cultivating qualities within ourselves that can then foster harmony and understanding in the relationship.
Okay.
You might visualize the relationship as you'd like it to be, filled with open communication, mutual respect.
It's almost like I'm sending positive energy towards the other person, even if they're not consciously aware of it.
You could think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, Regardie also emphasizes the importance of self-analysis.
What does he mean by that?
Well, he encourages us to be honest about our own shortcomings. And to really take responsibility for the role that we play in creating the situations that we find ourselves in.
So it's about like looking within before we point fingers outward.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging our own shadow side.
Yeah.
And he even suggests using these techniques to work on those shadow aspects of ourselves.
I can see how that would be challenging.
Yeah.
But also like really powerful.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
For example, let's say you realize that you struggle with envy.
Okay.
Well, you could work with Jupiter's energy again.
Okay.
Focusing on cultivating generosity and abundance within yourself.
So instead of feeling resentful of someone else's success, I could shift my focus to creating my own abundance.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about reframing our thoughts and feelings, which then begins to change how we perceive and interact with the world.
This all sounds incredibly empowering, I have to say, but I have to admit, like some of these techniques, especially like visualizing colors and vibrating divine names, it sounds a little out there.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially if you're, new to these concepts.
Yeah.
But, the human mind is capable of extraordinary things. We're only just beginning to really understand the power of our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs.
So it's worth keeping an open mind.
Definitely. And if you're curious, start with the basics.
Okay.
Master the rhythmic breathing technique, and then experiment with visualizing those psycho-spiritual centers. Just pay attention to how you feel.
Approach it with curiosity and see what happens.
Exactly. And don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate results. This is a process of gradual unfolding.
Right.
It's about awakening to our innate potential.
It's a journey.
It is.
Of self-discovery and inner transformation.
Well said. And speaking of transformation, there's one more important aspect of the true art of healing that we need to address, and that's the ethical implications of these techniques. Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with some pretty powerful forces here.
Yeah.
It's important to make sure that we're using them responsibly.
Absolutely. And in part 3, we'll dive into, how to approach these techniques with wisdom and discernment. Okay. Ensure that we're always acting for the highest good.
I can't wait. Okay. So we've been exploring some pretty amazing techniques.
Yeah.
From the true art of healing for personal growth and transformation.
Yeah, some really powerful stuff.
But, as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to talk about, the ethical side of things.
Right.
Because we're dealing with some powerful concepts here.
For sure.
And it seems, really important to use these responsibly.
Yeah. Regardie himself emphasized that, these techniques are not to be taken lightly.
Right.
They're tools that require wisdom, discernment, a deep sense of responsibility.
So where do we even begin to define, what ethical use looks like in this context?
I mean, it's not like there's a rule book for working with these subtle energies, right?
No, not at all. But, I think a good place to start is by recognizing that we are not in control of the universe.
Okay.
We can't force our will on others or try to manipulate situations for our own selfish gain.
Right.
That goes against the very principles of harmony and interconnectedness that Regardie talks about.
So it's not about bending the world to our desires.
Right.
It's more about aligning ourselves with a greater good.
Exactly. And that requires, a good deal of self-awareness and humility. We need to be mindful of our intentions.
Yeah.
Making sure that they are rooted in compassion and a genuine desire to help.
Right.
Rather than a need to control or dominate.
That makes sense. So let's say I'm using this technique to try and improve a relationship that's struggling.
Okay.
It's not about trying to subtly force the other person to change. Right.
No, definitely not ethical use in that context. Would be focusing on, healing and growth within the relationship as a whole. You might visualize greater harmony, understanding more open communication flowing between you and the other person.
It's more about creating a more positive, energetic space for the relationship to kind of evolve naturally.
Exactly. And it's essential to remember that we can't force someone to change.
Right.
Everyone has their own free will, their own path to walk.
So it's more about, creating a supportive environment for positive change to happen organically.
Yes, exactly. Another important ethical consideration is consent. If you're using these techniques with the intention of helping someone else, it's crucial to have their informed consent.
Well, yeah, of course. You wouldn't want to be messing with someone's energy field without their knowledge or permission.
Exactly. It's about respecting their autonomy.
Right.
And their right to choose what's best for them.
Yeah.
And even with their consent, it's crucial to approach the process with humility and sensitivity.
Okay.
It's not about imposing our beliefs or our will on them.
Right.
It's about empowering them to tap into their own healing abilities.
So I'm more like a guide than a dictator.
Yeah. A great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that, we don't have all the answers.
Well,
We're not all knowing healers. We're simply facilitators.
Right.
Helping to create the conditions for healing to occur.
It's about recognizing that wisdom and healing power that's already within each person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to trust that the universe has its own intelligence.
Right.
Its own way of orchestrating events.
Yeah.
We don't need to try and micromanage everything.
So we're not trying to play God, we're simply trying to cooperate with the natural flow of life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And along those lines,
Okay.
it's important to acknowledge that there may be times when these techniques are not the most appropriate course of action.
Okay. When would that be the case?
Well, for instance, if someone is dealing with a serious mental health condition,
Okay.
it's always best to seek professional help
Right.
from a qualified therapist or psychiatrist.
So these techniques are not a replacement for traditional medical or psychological treatment?
No, absolutely not. It's more of a complementary approach.
Okay.
Something that can be used alongside conventional care.
Gotcha.
And it's always wise to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
If you're ever unsure about, the ethical implications of using these techniques,
Right.
seek guidance from a trusted teacher or mentor.
Someone with experience in these matters.
Exactly. Ultimately, it's about using these powerful tools for the highest good of all.
That seems like a recurring theme in Regardie's work. This idea of aligning with a larger purpose.
Absolutely. And as we conclude our exploration of the true art of healing, I think, that's a great point to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
If our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs truly have the power to shape our reality,
Right.
what kind of world do we want to create? What seeds of healing, growth, and transformation can we plant within ourselves and in the world around us? It's a question worth pondering.
It really is. That's a beautiful way to wrap things up.
Yeah.
It's both empowering and inspiring. A huge thank you to you for joining us on this deep dive into the true art of healing.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even sparked a little curiosity to explore further. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.